Hello and welcome back to another episode of Lazy Entrepreneur. I'm your host, Sam Priestley, and as normal, we're joined by my lovely co-host, Emma Priestley.
Hello.
So to everyone listening who doesn't know, we're married. Did you know that?
Yes, I did know that, Sam.
We got married in July 2017, and then literally, as soon as we got back from the honeymoon, I think we came back from the honeymoon, we went to your brother's wedding, then we went to Ibiza, then we came back, and then we started a business together. We started our gin business, Pipe House Gin.
Which is mad when you think about it. Why would you get married and then start a business together?
Well, I think this is what we're going to talk about today. Is one of the reasons is that you did maybe 85%, maybe 95% of the planning for our wedding.
You mean 100%? You're being very generous on yourself there.
Emma did most of the planning for our wedding. And the whole time we were going through the planning, I kept thinking how similar this was to setting up a business. How similar it was to doing something like an Amazon FBA business. Almost every part of it. And I kept thinking as we were doing it, how good you were at planning the wedding was going to translate so well to starting a business. And all the kind of stuff that I really struggle with when starting a business, you were absolutely smashing it during the planning of the wedding. And so I left that thinking, let's use those skills of Emma's and start a business together, which then turned out to be Pipe House Gin.
Woo.
So let's talk about what I mean by that. So when you start a business, let's say you're going to make a product like a table tennis bat or a bottle of gin. You got to find someone to supply the bottles. You got to find someone to supply the corks. You got to work out someone who can actually make the gin for you. You've got to sort out the recipe. You've got to do all the creative stuff. You've got to design what things look like. You've got to find companies who are able to print that for you at an affordable rate. That's all very similar to doing a wedding. You've got to design your wedding invites. You've got to design the look and the feel of the day. You've got to make sure that it's unique and different to everyone else's wedding, but still similar enough to a wedding that everyone understands what's going on.
Yeah.
You've got to deal with lots of little suppliers. There's a whole budgeting side of it. You've got a set amount of money and you're constantly negotiating, price shopping, going from company to company to company. You've got to make sure everything happens at the same time. That's so much harder. If our bottles are delayed by a week, that's annoying, but it's not the end of the world. If something's delayed by a week for the wedding, that's it. The wedding's over. You've missed it.
That's it for that supplier. You've got to find someone else.
Yeah, but if they promise they'll have it done on that day and then they don't deliver, then it's screwed. So you have to have backup plans.
Yes, you need backups.
Like stuff like organising the person to do your hair and makeup. You had a couple of backup plans because you were dealing with such small suppliers who were so bad at replying to messages and stuff.
And they cancelled.
And it turned out, one of them cancelled the week before or something.
Yeah.
In fact, like when you're doing a wedding, there's more moving parts going on. You're dealing with more suppliers than you would when starting a business.
Yeah, and I think with the supplier side, you really have to go with your gut feel. You tend to do some research online, get some prices, get some quotes, get an idea of who's available and what they can do. And then you really need to meet with these people because you need to gain that trust because you are putting a lot of pressure on them to deliver something. And if they don't deliver, that will really affect your day.
And it will affect your business.
Yes.
On the same side. And like the customization side of it as well. You're not just wanting a generic invite or a generic band. You want one that's customized in a certain way for what you want and what you want the wedding look and feel to be like.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Like you can have a generic wedding. You can go to a venue that will give you a package for a certain price, which will come with a wedding planner who can do a lot of this research for you. Or on the other side, you can do every single piece of research, decision, customization yourself. But within that, just like a business, you can't customize everything because it costs so much money. So you have to look at what are the things that you really care about in the day, as well as what you care about in the business, what you're going to spend money on versus what are you going to try and cut back, because there are so many elements. You cannot afford to do everything.
Well, it's the same with our gin. So what I'm thinking of in particular was our bottles. So we ended up choosing bottles that are kind of off the rack.
Yes.
We didn't customise our own bottles. We don't have them engraved with our logo or anything like that, which we could have done, but that would have been another next step that we decided not to do.
Yes, for launch.
And just like there's 101 things with the wedding that we could have taken that step further. Something else I was thinking had a lot of similarities was between getting our label designed and doing our branding and getting the wedding invites done.
Yeah.
So with the wedding invites, Emma really wanted kind of cut paper.
Laser cut paper
Done with a design that we chose, a design that we'd come up with. We had a tropical theme wedding, so it was a mix of, it was English rose and Brazilian party was the vibe. So you wanted like a tropical cut wedding invite. And for the labels on our gin, we wanted something that looked amazing, really high end, really good quality paper. And for both of them, we started off by going to proper design firms who specialise in making exactly that.
Yes, and they charge an unbelievable amount. So the labels for the bottles, I think they started at 80,000.
Yeah, just
for
the design,
not for the printing.
Yeah.
And then the invitations, I think the first person I spoke to specialised in Indian wedding. So a huge scale and the budget was really high. And I think it was something along the lines of about £1,000 an invite was their like normal customers.
It was unbelievable. And then both of them, you didn't change what we wanted. We just then found other ways around it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I did a Skype call because actually we were travelling while we were organising the wedding. So I did a Skype call with this company, and this lady very kindly spent about 45 minutes talking me through all of the different options and basically helped me to create a spec of what I wanted. And then I could go to a much cheaper option. Because I didn't know any of the language. I didn't know what all the choices were. I was looking online, but it was all just a bit confusing, really. So to actually have a specialist have a personalised consultation with you was really helpful, and something that we couldn't do with the label because someone would have charged us for that.
Yeah, well, maybe we could have done. I bet a lot of these companies would do an initial consultation for free.
Yeah, actually, I think remembering back with the labels, I know the company we went for is in Scotland, but I think quite a lot of the companies were quite far away from where we were geographically. So it was we never really discussed meeting with the label company, did we?
No.
Before we chose them. And actually looking back, it may have helped us a lot to be able to meet an account manager face to face.
Well, something like the labels actually ended up delaying us by quite a long time.
Yes, for multiple reasons.
And the labels were something that, pushed our launch date back by a couple of months or something.
But were very, very important to us.
And we're very price conscious about it, because it's not just about
looking good.
Not just about it looking good, but also we needed the price per bottle to work out in our favour.
Yes.
Because unlike with a wedding, somewhere where it's different is when we're selling gin, we know how much we're selling each bottle for. And so we know how much margin we need. And so then we can backtrack everything. And we can say, this is the max we can spend on this one thing. And if we spend more on that one thing, we've got to take from somewhere else. And so we kind of had this idea of the max we could spend. So then it was a case of finding a company who was able to do that in the quantities we wanted.
Yeah. And work with on an ongoing basis as well. Whereas a wedding is a one-off.
Yeah, I mean, it's not exactly the same, starting a business and planning a wedding. And obviously there's the whole marketing and sales side at the end.
Yes.
I mean, it's not hard to convince people to come to your wedding.
Yes.
Whereas it's a bit harder to get people to pay for your product.
Yes.
But it's more the kind of the setup
that
I'm really thinking about here. And in those sense, they are, in a lot of ways, almost identical. Yeah,
it's interesting that you said that during the wedding you noticed that a lot of the planning, the admin side I was really good at, and you don't think you're very good at. But it's interesting because the part of a business that you really enjoy is the setup and the strategy and the creativity and the ideas. So it's funny that doesn't also marry with the actual getting excited about, I guess it's the admin side of it, making it happen.
Well, with the wedding, similar to how we started the gin, so with the wedding, we had a whole load of magazines. We were on a flight to Budapest. And we sat there and basically planned what we wanted for our wedding, the things we wanted, the theme, various ideas we had. And then you kind of went with that and then ran with it and then worked on a lot of the nitty gritty. So for instance, on the way there, we decided that we were going to get married in my home church and that therefore we wanted the venue to be around there. And we kind of set ourselves a budget and we said, this is how much we want to spend. So from there, you then went and started contacting all the different venues around, as well as exploring some more unusual ideas for venues that could save us a bit of money.
Yeah, well, the most important thing with a wedding to start with is to get a date. You need to have an anchor. So for us, it started with the church being available, and it turns out they actually had quite a lot of availability, which was very helpful, and then trying to find a reception venue that was available.
Yeah. And I suppose there's a similar priority list when it comes to a business. When we think about starting the gin, so labels, we could work around that. Bottles, we could work around that. The most important thing was finding a distillery who would work with us.
Yes.
And who could do it for the set price. If we couldn't sort that out, the rest would be a waste of time.
Yeah.
There's no point finding someone who can make cardboard boxes to put it in.
Yeah.
If we hadn't sorted out the product first. So that was the first thing we started doing. That was the first step. You made a big list of every distillery in the country.
Yeah.
We decided what our requirements were. We did a little research to work out how much we should roughly be paying per bottle.
Yeah.
And then you just start contacting as many as possible. Likewise with the wedding, once we knew we needed a venue in this sort of rough area, and we had a bunch of different dates, you then started contacting them all till you found one that suited and was in the right price range. Same with budget, really. So with the wedding, it's the overall budget we had, whereas with the gin, it was kind of the price per bottle.
Yes.
So with the gin, we had two things. We wanted to do the whole venture for under £10,000.
Yes.
And we wanted each bottle to be profitable. And that did write off most of the distilleries who replied back with quotes. So we were left with actually not that many options of people who were willing to work with us on a small size and who could do it for a certain price. Same with a venue. Do you remember we booked in a bunch of venues to go visit, and venues are often a bit hesitant to give you their prices up front. And often they want you to come in and see everything before they'll give you the price.
Yeah.
And we were doing this round where we were going around a few venues in one day. And I remember one of them, you phoned up or something and were like, can you just tell us how much it is? Because we were booked in there later, and they eventually sent us the price. And it basically took our whole budget up just for that venue. And so we cancelled the visit.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I was going to say, I don't remember seeing any other venues because we didn't, did we? We only saw that one.
Well, we ended up cutting out so many.
Yeah.
And luckily, the first one we checked out was ideal. But also, we had a lot of requirements. Just like with starting with creating a product. We wanted a huge amount of customization. We wanted certain food options.
Yeah, well, we wanted to bring our own alcohol in.
We wanted to bring our own alcohol. One thing we did for our wedding is we did a wine tour beforehand where we travelled around France and Germany and Austria, visiting vineyards to pick up wine for the wedding, and we had a wine tasting table. And there's not many venues who would let us bring our own wine without charging an extortionate fee for corkage.
Yeah, I've got some friends that are getting married in Switzerland in October. You should hear how much their corkage per bottle is in Switzerland.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Unbelievable.
And that was something that we also found, maybe not so much with the gin, but with other products I've done. You'll contact a company and they'll say, okay, well, we can do what you want, but our machinery only lets us create things in certain shapes. So I'm thinking in particular, we made these cases for our table tennis bats. It was something unique. No one had created table tennis bats that looked like this before. So we had to find a factory that was doing something similar enough. So we found a company who did laptop cases. And then it took us a long time to find a supplier who was able to actually create them in the sizes we wanted in the price range we wanted.
I think that's a really interesting point because if you compare that to a wedding, you need to produce a lot of items for a wedding. So even just looking at the stationery, so we talked about the invitations, but there are things like place cards and signage and menus and order of service and all those things that need to be printed. Now, if you look at it from a business point of view, when you're looking at scale, you typically have to pay a set price to create a plate. So whether we're talking about creating the labels, whether we're talking about back cases, but there's that startup costs, and it could be anywhere between a couple of hundred to thousands of pounds, which obviously when you look at a wedding, you can't justify that money.
Well, some parts are quite straightforward, some parts are harder. As you say, we can do stuff at scale. So for instance, with our latest batch of labels, we were able to do, I can't remember, 10,000 labels. And so because of that, we managed to get the price down per label quite a lot.
Yes.
Whereas when you're making placeholders at a wedding and you've got 100 guests,
yeah,
then you can't do it at that scale. So you have a lot less choice. Or you're paying a lot more per item.
I think it's the latter. You're paying a lot more.
Per item. Yeah, it ends up being a similar price. One thing we've been looking at recently is doing kind of beer mats, but for our gin, so that we can just give them out to bars and they can just hand them out. And it costs a similar amount to do 100,000 of them as it does to do 20,000 of them.
Yeah.
And that once you get to that sort of scale, the price increase is pretty much negligible.
And then how do you pick how many thousand you buy?
Yeah. Well,
then how much you can afford.
then the problem becomes storage.
Yeah.
Where do we put all these beer mats?
Yeah.
Just give them out to people, as many as possible. Yeah. Yeah, the more I was watching you do the wedding stuff, the more I was thinking, oh, this would be perfect for set up a business. But so many people organise a wedding and very few people start a business. And nobody has any experience doing a wedding until they do it.
No.
It's not like we have these ingrained skills that mean that you can organise a wedding. But some people are really excited for organising their wedding, and people do it every year.
Well, it's a happy occasion. It's getting all your friends and family together, and it's a celebration.
I think what I'm trying to get at is that a lot of the excuses people use for not starting a business would also then apply to a wedding as well.
Yeah.
But everyone still manages to have a wedding.
Yeah, it's true.
Stuff like you don't have enough time to do it. Well, most people organise a wedding in their part-time around their jobs, and it's really tough, and they say it's one of the most stressful things they've ever done.
Yeah.
But they do it. Stuff about, not having enough money. Who has enough money to have a wedding?
Yeah.
At least with a business, you're expecting to get that money back later. Like a business can be profitable. A wedding is a huge expense that's then gone forever. Stuff like you don't know where to start. You don't know where to start with a wedding. You got to then do your research. You got to spend time Googling, talking to people who have experience with it.
Yeah.
Then spend a lot of time talking to suppliers and having a bit of trial and error.
Getting advice.
Stuff like you're not very good at maths and accounting. Well, the same is true for a wedding. You've still got to create a budget. You've only got so much money you've got to spend. Same with starting a business. Mm. So I think what really struck me is that I kind of think I probably had this idea that I had a certain set of skills that made me slightly unique, slightly unusual, that meant I was better at starting businesses than the average person.
Yeah.
And then you come along and organise this amazing wedding, doing all the sort of stuff that I find really difficult and taking it in your stride. And I realised, actually, no, maybe it is just that people don't realise how similar these things are.
Yeah.
And that actually a lot more people could just go for it, start a business and do really well.
Yeah.
That maybe my uniqueness is that I've gone and done things where other people haven't. And that's it.
But I think a big part of it is the confidence, though. I don't think
so too,
anyone looks back at their wedding that they've planned and think, I've done really well planning that, and actually I could use those skills to set up a business. I'm thinking of a few friends in particular that have got married in the last couple of years, that we've been to their weddings, and they work very, very long hours in their current job. They really like their jobs, but whenever we meet with them, they've always got all these ideas of businesses they'd like to start. But I really think they don't see their current skill set in their head as the skill set that's going to help them to set up a business. And also, I think it's too much of a risk. So we've also got a lot of friends that have got mortgages and very expensive lifestyles. And I think they can't see that making a jump, leaving a mainstream job and going into setting up something on their own, I don't think they could afford it.
But that's it. They afforded a wedding.
Yes. And how did they afford the wedding if they can't afford to not be in a full-time pay for a year?
Well, they don't even need to quit their jobs. They did the wedding while in their full-time jobs.
I know.
They could start a business in their full-time job.
And again, I don't think people see that they found the time to do the wedding, so why couldn't they
find the time to do a business?
Yeah, outside their current hours.
And likewise, we spent a lot less money starting our gym business than we did on our wedding.
Yeah,
and the gym business is profitable.
Yeah.
Like, it's a bit ridiculous, really. But like, as you say, it's just you don't realise that those things cross over.
And I think it's confidence. I think people think
confidence.
There's no way I could do that. I wouldn't be very good at that.
Yeah, they don't see that the skill set aligns. And likewise, the only reason I noticed it is because I'd done all this stuff setting up other businesses, and I saw you following almost the exact same steps, but doing it a bit better than me, but for the wedding. But
then and at the same time, I never would have thought that either unless you'd said it.
Yeah, exactly.
I wouldn't have thought, oh, well, I did a really good job planning this wedding, so I'd be really good at the organisation side of setting up a business. If I'd never met you, I wouldn't have ever had the confidence to then do a business afterwards.
Yeah. And there's a bunch of other things, like when you're doing a business, it's all on you. You don't have any parents telling you what to do.
Yeah.
You don't have any crazy mother-in-laws. Not that I have a crazy mother-in-law. My mother-in-law was amazing. But we got some friends who are currently
mother-in-law
having some difficulties.
Yeah.
You don't need to worry about anyone's... If you choose a label that people don't like for your bottle of gin, then no one's going to particularly care. It doesn't matter if you hurt anyone's feelings. Whereas if you invite the wrong people to your wedding, that can stick with you forever. People never forgive you.
Yeah, it's true. So there's a lot of emotions that go into a wedding, isn't there? And I'm not saying there isn't setting up a business, but it involves a lot, all your close friends and family, and everyone has their own opinion. And there's something about a wedding that kind of makes people a little bit crazy, I think.
Well, people have their own opinion and they feel like they should have a say in it.
Yes.
Which is a bit weird because it's your wedding.
Very weird.
But they don't feel like they should have a say in your business.
Yeah, exactly. They're very supportive once you've launched it.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, let's call it a day there. If you've got a wedding plan coming up, consider cutting the budget in half and using the other half to go start a business.
That's like the most you thing
That's
I've ever heard.
my advice.
I'm not sure I'd agree.
You're not sure you'd agree?
I'd take that as if you've raised the money for a wedding, then you should be able to raise the money to start a business.
Yeah. If you can start a wedding, you can start a business.
Yeah.
That's the conclusion. And on that note, adios.
Bye.